teachers who taught me weren't cool. No, I can't complain. You're holding me down, turning me round, filling me up with your rules. I gotta admit, it's getting better. It's a little better all the time. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, standing up to the forces of darkness and whatever.
Making them look at the light.
Yes.
That's what we do.
Yes. Welcome.
Now.
Yes.
130 whatever shows here. I've gotten, 6 1/4 right? Song guessing, 7 1/4.
Like no.
7 and remember, I gave myself a quarter.
Here.
No, I gave myself partly
you,
credit.
You awarded yourself.
Well,
yeah.
I guessed like 20 things, and I think I got like one of the last names right or something.
Yeah.
Once again, now, I don't consider myself. I don't know what pop culture is anymore.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what it was. You know, like I said before, to me, pop culture is Madonna and Whitney Houston. Okay, that's pop culture to me. I don't know who that is now. Now,
yes.
Once again, Jay, you have stumped me again. I had some, because we're talking about education today, and I had some songs in mind of what it could possibly be.
Yes.
Okay, that was not it.
No.
So tell me who in tarnation that was.
That was the Beatles.
What?
Getting Better off Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Yeah.
I've gotten them right a few times.
You have, not that time though.
Yeah. I did miss that one. What's their last CD? Don't Tell Me. Where they're walking across the street. Don't Tell Me. Abbey Road.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought I got a song right off of that at one time.
I think so, yeah.
You know, like in 2017.
Something like
that.
Yeah.
Now, you played Schools Out one time by Alice Cooper, and I missed that one.
Yes, you did.
Because you didn't sing it. You know, I think here's the thing. I think you got to start like humming it a little bit, or maybe putting some music on in the background. I know we don't want to pay anybody,
right?
But I mean, you know, it's just it's sometimes like just the lyrics. I think I'd have like 10 right instead of 7 1/4 if that was the case.
Yeah. So you mean if I had gone like, got to admit it's getting better, would you have gotten
No,
that?
I would not have. I would not have gotten the Monkees or the Beatles or whoever. Okay. The 3 guys with Paul McCartney. Okay.
Right.
Now, Jay.
Yes.
I'm in a rotten mood today.
Okay.
My Dodgers are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I still got the Yankees.
Well, that's
because you know I love the Yankees, and I don't.
Yeah, I don't get it.
What do you mean you don't get it? It's the greatest team in the history of sports.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I understand that, but yeah, I'm an underdog guy.
Now,
yeah.
Well, but here's the thing: if the big guys win all the time, maybe baseball takes another harder look at the salary structure in arbitration and changes things. So, you know, but if the little guys win here and there, they're not going to do that. So you got to remember. Now, I have wanted to see a Yankees-Dodgers World Series. Now, they played in 1981. I was 4 years old. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And I have not gotten to see a Yankees-Dodgers World Series.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to see a Yankees-Dodgers? Who cares about the Red Sox? I want to see. What do you mean? What do you mean you hope not?
I would like to see the Twins in the World Series again, personally, and not get kicked out in the first round of the playoffs.
You're never going to see it.
Well, I know.
It will not happen.
It will not happen.
I mean, I'd like to see Halley's Comet again, but you know, they're just some things just will not happen. Okay, so
not at your age.
Yeah, no. I don't think it's due to come until like I'll be dead. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Jay, Philadelphia.
Yes.
Is a. I've been through there. You know, I've been everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there's nowhere I haven't been.
Really.
Okay. So, well, at least that we talk about.
Okay.
And, you know, you could argue it's one of the birth cities of the United States. I mean, with the all the constitutional stuff and all that that happened there, which nowadays you have to learn about on your own. You know, and Philadelphia, there's such a rich history there. And, you know, you think of more than just I am always struck by cities that have this long history in them.
Yeah.
You know, I visited Richmond, Virginia once, and you can feel like the presence of like Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of like if you're at Graceland, you can feel. You go through Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I swear Bear Bryant's in the car with you.
Right.
Okay, there's just some places that, and I think Philadelphia I picture Ben Franklin with his kite or something
Yeah.
like that outside. What is going on at City Hall in Philadelphia? Now, you and I,
Yeah.
Jay, have talked and done entire shows about renaming elementary schools because they're named after, Patrick Henry or some guy who owned slaves. We're going to rename Lake Calhoun because, the only thing anyone knows about John Calhoun was that, he was a slaveholder. Nobody else knows. Nobody could tell you, when he lived or where he was from, but they know he owned slaves. That's it.
That's it.
And in Philadelphia, one of the quotes, and I don't remember if you said it or I said, I probably did, but since I don't know that, I'll just pretend that one of us said it. It was all about the Confederate flag.
Right.
And the alleged outrage at the sight of it. Now, would the same people have the same outrage if somebody flew the Soviet Union flag?
Not anymore.
Would they if somebody flew the Chinese flag? Would there be any outrage at all in comparison to, if you want to call it a dark chapter in American history, if you want to make that case? 75 million Americans are descendants of Confederates. Right. But we've got our answer in Philadelphia.
Yes, we do.
What happened, Jay, in Philadelphia?
Well, the City Hall, to commemorate diversity, of course,
Of course.
raised the communist Chinese flag out in front.
So, in the name of diversity, now we don't need to go through what happened in China in the 50s and 60s, or in World War II for that matter,
Right.
where you could argue a genocide happened. I mean, you could make that case.
You could.
And yet that flag, without objection, is flown over City Hall in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So we now have our answer. I didn't think we'd have our answer so fast.
That was pretty quick, wasn't it?
That was quick. It's almost like they were listening to us and said, hey, Soviet Union, we'll top you.
Yes.
They weren't bad enough.
No.
No,
I mean, heck, they only killed 10 million people.
yeah, Ukraine's in the news. Anybody hear about the famine back in the 1930s or the gulags? So the communist Chinese flag, maybe I wonder if it has anything to do the Philadelphia 76ers have any, the hubbub going on right now about the
Well, it's them, it's the Rockets, it's the whole NBA for some reason. Well, I mean, I know why.
It's because the shoe companies run the NBA.
Well,
and they have their...
They have a big market in China, though, too. They have games that are scheduled over there, and there are a whole bunch of, there's cooperation between the NBA and
the Chinese government.
And the Chinese
Let's
government.
remember that. Yeah.
Right. And that's it. I mean, we're looking at diversity, and we're looking at a communist government versus a people in Hong Kong. And so these organizations are taking the side of a government that has killed 60 million plus.
Well, I've said these companies know no boundaries, know no laws, know no anything. And as much of a business supporter as I am, that's not what this is. This is how is this any different? Let me ask even a question we always think on this program. Okay, how is that any different? Basically, the NBA is siding with people trying to oppress freedom of speech, freedom. I mean, however you want to spin it, that's what they're doing. How's that any different than a company doing business with the mullahs in Iran and taking their side? We're going to sell them we got some plutonium, uranium we're going to sell them to improve our bottom line. And we're going to, because there's a undercurrent of revolutionary activity going on in Iran that we've talked about.
Absolutely.
So I mean, what would be the difference there?
Well, nobody supports Iran's government.
Yeah,
and like you say, there's a lot of business ties.
Go back to apartheid in South Africa.
We do a lot of business with China, not only our companies, but the companies that supply a lot of our electronics and technology.
I used to work for Best Buy. I can confirm that.
They get their parts made in China.
Yeah, they get it made in a sweatshop.
And I think also when you look at the stranglehold that the Chinese have on our economy with just, dumping tons of money into our economy and buying things up, they're purchasing equities.
They almost control our dollar, if you really think about it. I mean, the best way we can fight the Chinese is to cut our deficit and cut federal government spending. That's probably the best way we can do it. The hell with a tariff.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way. I mean, a tariff is one way, but ultimately we pay that too.
Yeah.
And I have my back and forth on free trade, but it depends who you're trading with, is what I always say. But so we have a situation. Again, let's get back to Philadelphia for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to celebrate diversity, Jay, where on the list is flying the Chinese? I mean, that's got to be. Even I could think of some way. You could fly my face on a flag, and it would be higher on the list than the communist Chinese flag.
Yeah.
Why don't you fly the maple leaf?
Well, and
say, hey, Canada's our neighbor. We welcome you. Alex Trebek is dying. I mean, why can't? Who would think of the communist Chinese?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, it's one thing if you're showing solidarity with a people, but this is not about showing solidarity with the people. If they did that, they'd fly the Hong Kong flag.
Yeah.
Right? This is all about supporting the Chinese government. So, again, when is diversity supporting a government over a people that they are oppressing?
Yeah, but like I've always said, diversity is in thought,
not
in skin color or one of the 12 genders. It's not that.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like here in the Twin Cities, I know I was over near Boston Scientific the other day, and they're flying the rainbow flag right under the American flag to show diversity.
Oh, well, at least it's not over it.
Yeah, I mean,
it could be worse.
Well, and they're a private corporation; they can do that. But
But again, I mean, we have a disease of corporations sticking themselves, I think, like never before, into social issues and into political issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I've seen it at this level ever. Of it seems like everybody has to, everybody's HR department has to take a stand on what you can say and what you can't say, what you can wear and what you can't wear. A lot of companies do social media checks and backgrounds like that now upon hiring somebody, which again is another warning. Don't put every thought on social media.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's gotten where, you can be very intimidated. I mean, let me just give you an example. If I'm working for the city of Philadelphia and there's a communist Chinese flag flying while I'm walking in the building, and I go on, I Twitter out support for the Hong Kong,
Yeah, right.
What's that look like? Hey, the city manager over in Philadelphia is, I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you're at a 76ers game, they're going to toss you out.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the thing. I mean, 1776. I mean, that's the birth of a nation, right?
Right.
So in the 1770s, you get the birth of a nation. In 1970s, you get Rocky Balboa, which is the individual overcoming,
Adrian. You want some donuts, cupcakes?
Boy.
Yo, Paulie.
And then today, you get this. You look at the first three words of the pledge, I pledge allegiance. I don't think we understand what that means anymore.
No, I don't.
I
don't know that they know the words.
Loyalty or commitment of a subordinate to a superior or of an individual to a group or cause. Well, when you're flying a flag, I mean, that shows allegiance. So we know.
All I can say, let me wrap it up this way.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, I ain't going there. Send me a cheesesteak in the mail, okay? But I ain't going there again.
Yeah.
Spend my dollars in Cleveland or something. I don't know.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
have not been there, so I guess I haven't.
You haven't
there.
been to Cleveland.
No, I guess I haven't been everywhere.
Well,
That's
go.
not in Pennsylvania.
No.
What did I say? Cleveland?
Yeah. Pittsburgh? Is that what you meant?
No, I've never been there either.
Okay. Okay.
But I've been everywhere.
All right.
All right, enough
Moving on.
babbling, We got important business to discuss.
We do.
And we always have an important show, but this may be more importanter than the other ones.
Okay.
See, that's a new word
Yes.
that I just made up.
Hey.
Call up Webster and add importanter.
Well, the other side does it every time that they want to, change the meaning of something. They just make up a word. So
Well,
we can
yeah,
do it
sure.
too. We can do it too.
You can't beat them, join them. Actually, no. If you can't beat them, do it better than them.
That's what we've tried to do. One thing that hasn't been done better is public schools. Now, granted, we have had our beef with public schools and talked a lot about school choice and charter schools and all this. This isn't about that. This is about how it's weird. Public school districts across the state, some have elections in even years, some have elections in odd years for school board, but it always seems like a referendum can come at any time. And it may be an even year. It might be an odd year. It might be in the middle of the year. I mean,
Brooklyn Center, it came the week before Christmas. You know?
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes.
All right.
700 people voted or something.
And they try to obfuscate the details as much as possible, and they sell you a bill of goods. They tell you, hey, look at all these great things that you're going to get, you know, smaller class sizes and free cheese sandwiches.
Wait a
11
second.
o'clock.
Because we have a guest here,
right?
And I want to bring her in Jay, can I ask you just a question?
Yes.
So you went up. You grew up in Proctor, right outside of Duluth.
Yes.
I went to Cooper, right here in the Crystal New Hope. You know.
Yeah. And you're wearing Proctor colors today. I appreciate that.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, with your green and white.
That's what you wear. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a wild sweatshirt, but okay, fine.
It's okay.
What was the average class size? Do you think?
35.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Probably.
Okay. I'm just curious because to me that's a number that can be manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing in high school, you know, when I went to Cooper, I'm saying 30 was probably not counting gym and lunchrooms and things like that. 30 was not out of whack.
No.
So class size always though seems to be a hot button.
Right.
That kind of moves the needle a little bit. I'm just kind of curious what it was, you know, up in Proctor.
30 to 35, I'd say. Okay. 35 would be a big class, but
probably, but you know, 5 rows of 7 doesn't sound like that many. Yeah, okay. No. There were more desks than that in those the classes I was in. I can tell you that much. And I don't remember if there were 31 kids or 33 kids. I don't remember.
Right.
I think it can get to the point where it's too much. But anyhow, go ahead, keep going. I promise I won't interrupt for another 3 minutes.
Well, you know, they promise all these great things, and they ask for exorbitant sums of money, but yet it always boils down to it's a latte a day, or it's a coffee a week, or it's whatever.
You find it in your couch cushions.
Right.
I heard that one time.
Couch cushions. Whatever. You know, it seems like they are always chasing the same ghosts. Class sizes don't ever seem to improve by their standards. Test scores don't ever seem to improve by their standards. So what are we doing? We keep throwing money away without holding people accountable and saying, what you going to show us for the money we've sent you? Well, guess what? It's that time of year again, and there are school districts that are doing the same thing that they always do. Now we know with Robbinsdale, we just had had something a couple of years ago, and they're back at the well again. Well, here's another school district. We're talking about ISD 728, and they've got some interesting things going on with the referendum that they've got coming up. We have a guest, Ann Kucheski, here, and she is going to tell us all about what's happening in this district, because it kind of blew our minds, some of the things that they were saying that they wanted to do, were doing, had done. So and we will get into those weeds a little bit momentarily. So 728 is the Zimmerman-Rogers-Elk River area, and so Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you took this up as a cause?
I have lived in the community about 22 years. I've had 3 daughters go through the district. I noticed, probably got most involved in 2008 when the economy was down. And I took an interest in the politics of the schools.
Yes.
Primarily the striking teachers on the sidewalk as you dropped your children off.
Yes.
In a down economy with foreclosure signs up and down the street. So
That's a
I,
nice
at that
touch.
point, started to tune in a little bit.
Okay,
Got it.
so you're up in that area. You guys have. You should mention there's 2 questions on the ballot for folks in ISD 728. One is it's a 10-year, and right that they're proposing that 10 years that they will have an operating levy, and they want to float bonds on question 2. Question 1 has to pass for question 2 to be considered. And of course they're doing what the districts always do, break that down, and like you said, Jay, and how it's nothing, and so on and so forth. My question to you, Ann, is why don't you let everybody know, what are the issues kind of facing the school district? What are they telling people? Why are they saying that they need? Because it's a large amount of money. It comes out to about $11 million a year annually, the increase that they're asking for. What's their genesis behind what they're saying about why they need this money?
Well, they need to increase or add new curriculum, add mental health initiatives and programs. As far as buildings, they need new buildings on the second question.
A new middle school, right, is
Right.
the proposal right now.
Right.
Yeah. Blaming the state, of course, is part of their deal. You know that I always say this: if wages kept up with inflation, Jay, we'd be retired.
Yeah.
So I mean, they think that
Yeah.
that all the stuff they think they're entitled to, and they always have the state as kind of the boogeyman to blame when the state does things that they don't like or think don't give them everything they think they're entitled to. But when you look at their quote unquote fact sheets, and I say that in air quotes on the radio
Right.
here, you will see the big bad state being blamed for everything but the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
So once again, we have the same. Where have we heard all this before?
Oh, every referendum.
Yeah,
ever.
okay,
Which is why if you're
I thought
not,
Groundhog Day was on in the background, but am I
which is why if you're not from District 278, it's still important that you tune in.
728?
Sorry, 728. I was looking.
Don't make an accounting error here.
728,
That's how
yeah.
I got a C in accounting. All right, I transpose numbers.
You need to listen in though, because I mean, this is what they do in every district all the time, over and over, and it's going to apply to you and help educate you and equip you to be able to do this kind of thing in your district next time they ask for money.
Right, and Ann, let me ask you this. I mean, you got a pretty large district area-wise. I mean, Zimmerman, Rogers, and Elk River aren't exactly Crystal, New Hope, and Robbinsdale, all close to each other. And you have had growing enrollment where a lot of districts around here have seen shrinking enrollment. So that's another thing I think that they're pitching is that they have growing enrollment. So the districts that have declining enrollment need more money, and the ones who have growing enrollment need more money. That's what I've noticed.
Right.
So now I know you've gone to a lot of meetings and engaged folks on social media. I mean, what's the reception been out there to what the district has been pitching?
For the most part, we have a couple forums. Most people think if you question anything or you ask for transparency or accountability, they equate that to you hate education, you hate teachers, and you don't care about the community. That's the first thing. So usually there's been a lot of parental bullying and lots of censorship. So I did create that the new page. There's some support there, but typically that people that are fiscally conservative are conservative with their voice too. So a lot of quiet support, which has been great. but at the same time, the bullying is still there. If you question anything.
So let me ask this: since you're a brave soul here, I mean, what have you been questioning as far as what they're planning to do? Like, they've been pretty vague, in my opinion, with this, what they're going to do with this $11 million a year. They talk about mental health. They talk about class size. But I mean, what specifically are they pushing with that? I mean, because I had some trouble finding any dollar amounts or anything, because it can change. I mean, once it goes into the general fund, and I don't know how people know this, a future school board can spend it on whatever they want to.
Right.
I mean, they could say it's like a franchise fee. That's going to go to roads.
Well,
and then all of a sudden, it goes to, somebody's health care.
Right. Well, for instance, here, one of the bullet points, the first bullet point is supporting struggling students. That is vague. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Supporting mental health. What is that?
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Updating curriculum. Are we wiping out curriculum? Are we changing curriculum?
Well, what do they say?
Well,
what do they say when anybody asks that? Other than you don't care about the community, we'll
Right.
just call that a given, okay? That you don't care about any of that.
Well, we already know the superintendent is excited about social emotional learning.
Oh.
So, and he isn't he is transparent with that. So, I actually appreciate that, but it's something that I would not appreciate being promoted at school. It's an extension of Common Core and social engineering. So if we're going to get excited about that, how excited are we with the dollars?
Right. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, that is not something that they came up with. I mean, you can Google it and you can find pie charts and
name one
article
thing they
after
came up
article after article. 5 guiding principles of social and emotional learning.
And you'll be glad to know the district has put a YouTube video on the link. If you click the 5, it goes to a YouTube video of a bunch of, I don't know if they're educators or not people from
the district.
No, not people there, talking about how they have to add the emotional and all those elements are part of learning. You're gonna need that in life, Jay. You got to know when to cry, when to yell, when to be quiet, when to jump up and down. I mean, you can't just spontaneously do that stuff.
Oh no, that'd be out of line.
That's too much freedom.
Yes. Well, I know this. If they were grading me on that, if they were grading you on that back in when we were in school, we'd still be in school.
If they had Ritalin around when I got into like first grade, I'd have been hooked up to an IV.
Yes.
Okay, but at that point, he's a hyper boy.
That's all right.
Go cut something. I mean, it was nobody thought anything of it.
Right. So yeah, they always have these touchy-feely things that they want to promote, and it really doesn't mean a whole lot on the surface, but it gives them, I think, and I think you've found, and that it gives them the license then to, without ever saying it, they can just say, oh, this falls under that. This falls under that. Don't worry about it. We're promoting social and healthy, social and emotional health here. We're, providing for this or for that. And have you found some other things as you've kind of dug into that have they're not really what they seem?
Well, like Andrew mentioned about the videos that you can hit on the website, one of the teachers or educators says point blank, we shouldn't be just teaching math and science and reading. We need the whole child. And that's kind of chilling, actually.
Yes.
We need the whole child. No, I mean, our schools, we're the parent, and we should be in charge of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And
So is it like pushing values almost is what,
Right.
what you're
Right.
saying?
Thought processing, manipulation of thought.
Right. Just like anti-bullying campaigns, they revolve around using bullying to shut people down, actually.
Right.
It's like if you don't believe this little small frame of mind that we believe in,
Right.
we're going to use bullying in the name of anti-bullying
Right.
to quiet you.
Well, I mean, how many people are, if you disagree with something, you're called a racist or a homophobe or whatever. I mean, by the way, I just want people to know, and I'm getting this from the district's website, isd728.org, and you can go to, they have a whole page on the referendum. What is social and emotional learning? Jay,
Yes.
I just want to go through this quick. Grades E through 3. Remember, they take the kid from the womb and put them in the system.
Right.
Students are taught how to use facial expressions, body language, and tone to effectively communicate thoughts, feelings, emotions, and intentions. Grades 4 through 5. Students are taught to recognize how facial expressions, body language, and tone impact interactions. You might not learn any math or anything, but you're going to learn this. Grades 6 through 8, students are taught to monitor, keyword, how facial expressions, body language, and tone impact interactions. So they got a whole plan, E through 12. Grades 9 through 12, students are taught to apply nonverbal skills to create productive outcomes during positive and negative interactions. Now, I don't know what I just said right there for the last minute and a half. But
I'm just shooting from the hip here. Do you think that this is to make kids feel like they're not allowed to emote? Like we have a ruling class and everybody else needs to be subservient to that ruling class and not act out?
probably, and it's the exact opposite of what kids used to be taught.
Right.
Kids used to be taught to think for themselves and ask questions and form their own opinion. And, that's kind of, you kind of use those in life once in a while.
Right.
I mean, that kind of thing. So that's social and emotional learning. And the district on its website has all of these questions where they ask the question and answer it.
Wow.
They do both for you.
Well, that's good.
You don't do that. They ask and they answer.
Well, that's good.
So,
If you don't know, just ask them. They'll tell you.
that's right. you remember there was a program called Almost Math? Have you ever heard that?
No, I never heard that.
Where 5 + 5 is 12. Well, that's close enough. It was something like that.
Wow.
It had to be out in California. It just had to be. But, that's the kind of thing here. Asking, there's a right answer to this. But to 5 + 5, there's not a right answer. No.
Right,
It's well, you're really grading on a curve. That curve goes around a few mountains.
Right.
When that happens. So, yeah.
Close enough. Billy's having trouble at home.
Yeah, no kidding. Social promotion.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of this stuff, I was kind of chuckling to myself. It's with all these programs and everything. It's a solution looking for a problem, and funding looking for a program is my new way to say that. We have funding, now we need to find a program or a problem. So, yeah.
And how dangerous is it? One thing I don't like to do especially with kids, is label them. I think that's a real issue. A kid comes in at 5 years old and somebody wants to put a label on them right away. They're at risk. They're hyper. They have some sort of mental something or other. They're not just kids anymore. I mean, that has gotten really out of control. And the constant labeling of at risk or needing help or whatever, there are no limits anymore as to what the school can or can't do, it seems like. They're not institutions of learning anymore. Am I off base on that?
Well, the subject of inclusivity is out there all the time. And if you look at the MSS survey, the Minnesota Student Survey, it's put out, I think, earlier in the year, in the spring. 26 genders they can choose from. So all 26 different genders. So we're constantly dividing and putting kids in a pigeonhole to divide them.
You know, Ann, I heard something about that. The students what are they asked to do exactly? What does that entail?
Yeah,
Totally.
we kind of covered that.
I think we
part of
did
the
a little
survey.
bit.
Did you?
We did, yeah.
They're asked a bunch of questions if they've ever, a lot of gay and straight
Yes.
questions. What
Yep.
was that exactly? Who puts that out, first of all?
Minnesota.
So the Department of Education puts that out?
Right.
Okay.
And then the districts are supposed to let the parents know there is an opt-out option. So it comes in an email that says your student's going to have this anonymous survey, and they will do it on their Chromebook. Well, we already know that's not anonymous.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents, they see a district email, and do they read it?
No.
So it's.
I see an email from you, and half the time I don't read it.
So I said I would like to see it first, and then I'll decide. So I had to actually request it. It didn't come in the email.
Of course not.
So you have to request it, and I received it from the district, and it was 85 questions. Some of the questions had 5 or 6 sub-questions, and I could not even believe it. The 26 genders.
Weren't
There
there,
was some of it I didn't even. I don't know what cisgender is.
weren't there things like, do you have a gun in the house? Do you?
Have you? I don't know about arms, but
Okay.
have you traded
Have you
sex
tried
for
drugs?
for goods or services or whatever? Now the argument there was because I went out to the community and just alerted them and was eviscerated. So a lot of people think that that's completely appropriate.
Wow.
And what it does is if some of the questions, I was picturing young kids looking at it and having them, what would their reaction be? Because I know what mine was. And it neutralizes all the subject matter, and it kind of normalizes it,
Right.
the activity, because it's just plain and simply right out there for them to absorb. So, and what purpose? So then, people that were for it were saying, well, then we'll know what kind of help they need. Well, no, you're telling me it's anonymous. So are you going to come up with 26 different counseling offices for that, because now you're trying to pigeonhole them into a label. I see no purpose in it, not whatsoever.
I think it's all just designed to get information
Yeah.
on,
Data mining.
Yeah. It's part that, and especially because of the Chromebooks and things like that. Some of there are agreements between Google and or Microsoft and school districts or states departments of education, federal Department of Education, things like that. That's one thing, and I think also by asking those questions, it encourages kids to explore what those things are if they don't know about it.
What are the ages?
Introduces them to
Is this
those
a high
concepts.
school?
There's 2 levels. The one in particular is it 9th to 12th or 7th to 12th? Yeah, I think there's one that's middle school up to 6, and then the other is 7th and up.
I just keep thinking when I was an innocent kid.
Yeah.
Okay. I told you I was never bullied, even when I had a mullet. Okay. So and at 15, 16 years old, I'm not sure I would have known what it meant to half the things on there.
Yeah.
I'd have answered, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, boys and mostly, are going to just be silly and put down some craziness anyway. So
Absolutely.
So you're not gathering any meaningful information, and it's intrusive. It's
None of their business.
It's none of their business.
Is the answer.
Exactly.
I mean, and here's the thing too. Especially, I'm really uncomfortable with the sexual orientation kind of questions. You know, teenager, it could be a confusing time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your body's changing. You're growing up. And to have the school pile on, you're getting assaulted with images on television, on the computer, and for a school to pile on and try to put a label on you when you don't know yourself what the hell you are, you know, I mean, you're it's almost like being outed if you're, you know, not sure about something. So I mean, like you said,
it's the power of suggestion,
right?
So it's not coincidental. It's not in the water that we have, you know, a population of children transgendering. Mm-hmm. It's because it's the power of suggestion. It's been put there. It's culturally a phenomenon now, you know.
It is.
So, yeah.
And you better not criticize it. No, you better not.
Yeah.
Well, I want to challenge it. Can we challenge this just because, you know, these educrats run around and kind of are, you know, they're kind of like, you know, the two species of people I distrust the most are scientists and doctors, because they talk to you like, if you can't talk about you know, a cup of protons or something, they think you're the biggest idiot on the face of the earth. And they always talk down to people. Mm-hmm. And educrats are right up there. They're like, it's like I'd put scientists, I'd put one, especially if they believe certain things, which I won't get into here. 1B would be doctors. 1C would be people in education administration.
Yeah.
Because you have to be a good storyteller and things like that to succeed at that level. You have to be a used car salesman times 50 to be there. You really do. Yeah. Because selling the schools, selling your soul to public education, basically is your job.
Right.
You know, every kid's got a dollar sign written on them. And if they go somewhere else, you know, that's on you. That's how they view it.
You get money for free lunch. You get money for special education. All these things, and you know, they're
all the funding adjustments that we've talked about. Your ADM, your average daily membership. You get a funding adjustment based on that. This district has come up with some interesting claims. I'm just going to call it that. One thing in their YouTube video, the board chair and the superintendent, I forget their names, doesn't matter. Okay. Put out about a 6-minute YouTube video that I trudged through. Trust me, it was worse than watching David Brooks on Meet the Press. Okay, it was that bad. Okay, and one of the things that they claim several times is how much money they have cut already. I mean, we can't. I mean, you know, there's nothing we can do. I mean, we can't, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we got the grocery bill and there's nothing we can, those toothpicks and those, you know, the cherries for the kids' Sundays. I mean, there's nothing we can go without.
Right.
There's not a single thing. We have to buy the best this, the best that. The figure that they come up with, they have no evidence, mind you. They have no reference. They have no page you can go to or anything like that shows this, is that they have cut over $20 million in the past 10 years. Now, Jay, let me ask you something. And you chime in on this too. If I told you I was going to cut my grocery bill,
yes,
okay, would I spend more or less if I were to cut it?
Is this a government grocery store?
Okay, well, they keep my change. Let's put it that way. What would, you know, my grocery bill was $100. Let's just say, you know, my wife and I went out. We spent $100 on groceries because she buys her coffee and her all that stuff, or the what do you call it? Keurig. Yeah. Okay. And I told you we were going to cut our bill. Mm-hmm. Okay. Would I spend more or less than $100? Now, I'm not asking that to be a wiener here. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
What would the expectation be?
Well, you'd spend less.
I'd spend less.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the numbers. Okay. This is what we do here. That at the Community Solutions government funding class, of which there are no graduates. Okay, because the learning never stops because there's always something new coming at you. I pull up their general fund from 2019 and 20. Oh, that happens to be this school year, correct?
Well, that's a long time ago. You can't take that into account.
I'm looking at their total expenses. Way down at the bottom, and you can find this on their budget page on their website. It's a PDF. Okay, so you can't download it with Windows 3.1 out there. And it says that their proposed spending is $893,397. I go back 3 columns to 2016 and 17, and they spent $141 million and change.
Yes.
That's nearly an increase of $15 million over 4 school years. So tell me, where is the $20 million in cuts?
Well, you're not using Common Core math. That's the problem.
Oh, well, that's the problem? Yeah. I don't see it anywhere. They claim state funding is they're getting shorted. All the merry-go-round of money that we all send down to St. Paul, then it gets redistributed, some formula that tax auditors can't explain to you. And yet, when I look at their state revenue, okay, their state revenue, where the hell is it?
It's up 1.6.
And, yes, and since, oh, whoops, I got to go to a different page.
It's on the other page.
It's on the other page. Yeah, revenue. About $117 million they got in 2016-17. They're getting almost $127 million for this school year. So they've had a $10 million increase. Now, some of that is based on, I'm sure, on enrollment increases because that's how the state funds their main part. Some of it is due to increases in the basic formula. But they're not losing money from, they're not getting less.
Well, what about inflation?
Well,
No.
I mean, what about it? I mean,
I know.
I don't know what inflation's going to be next year or the year after or the year after that. I mean, it all depends on 5,000 factors, and they want to be insulated from that so that they get money regardless of whether you're working or anything happens. They want to be insulated from that.
So, Ann, have you gotten any answers about this stuff? Because I know how forthcoming school districts are when you ask them about things.
Well, to be fair, they've provided the meetings, and I think, they feel like this is the best. I do not. I mean, I argue about the prioritizing of our funds. But no, it's still vague, and just like we're talking here, I don't understand. I don't feel like better after I go to a meeting.
Right.
I feel a more sense of vagueness. And
So they do everything not to answer your question, basically.
right. Well, I mean, just with this building stuff, I'm looking here. Creating new spaces, flexible learning spaces.
Oh, don't you know what that is?
No.
That's like when you watch the Addams Family or the Munsters and they push the wall. They're creating new learning spaces.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue what that
Like
is.
I really pretty much broke it down on the page that everything is. It sounds so wonderful and it's so vague though. So no, I guess I can't say that I've received any kind of information that would make me feel a little more comfortable about it, a little more alarmed maybe.
Right. What are the things that have stood out the most to you as you've dug into this? What are the things that, we've gone through their claims, but I know you've done a lot of research. What have you found that has shocked you the most?
Well, the equity.
Yeah.
The equity issue. Equity is not equality,
No.
So I think the most thing that surprised me is just the willingness of everyone to get on board with this just because it's for the kids and they think equity is equality. I think that's the most I think that has stuck out is not so much the information, just the consensus that this is wonderful.
Right.
So when they say equity, what are they meaning exactly? by that? I mean, what's unequal about the schools? I mean, I've always said education is about opportunity, not outcome. That I mean, look, there's no way you're going to graduate kids with everybody being the same. It's our differences are why one person goes into a career in this. And yeah, I mean, there's no way to. They keep trying to sell us on that, and I keep going, look. Go to your workplace. Does everybody do the same thing? Everybody goes out to lunch. Do they order the same thing? When everybody, I mean, why are they pushing equity so much? I know it sounds good, but I mean, what does that mean as far as learning goes? I mean, what is the one kid got that does one kid have a better textbook? Does one kid have more pencils? I mean, what is it? What does that mean exactly?
Good question.
Well, hey, we can be like the district and answer it ourselves. I mean,
well, I think our district has gone away with the valedictorians.
Really?
No, what?
Yeah. So it's just everything's on the same playing field.
So equity is defined as those who achieve. We're going to bring them down to everyone else's level, so nobody
you have to bring everybody up.
Feels bad.
Right.
That's what that means. I see.
Well, I mean, and we've seen that as well across the state. I mean, cities have been driving and counties have been driving this equity push when it comes to housing, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to availability of services, and
yeah, which makes no sense. If I dial 911, do they ask me what my income is before they come over? I mean,
No.
it's a way to sell something and cover up what you're really doing. So again, I mean, do they banish the honor roll or anything like that too? I mean,
no, we still have that.
Okay, that's still there. That's next, though.
Right.
That might be next.
I mean, I think if you look into equity in some of the other districts, dismantling white supremacy is one of the tenets of it. So, and if
that
you,
a big problem at
if
the
you look
middle
at,
schools, the elementary schools
you
there?
know, if you look at some of the activities that our educators and Minnesota Education puts out, some of the seminars that are going to be going on
Next week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their keynote speaker is, I think he founded like the White Privilege Foundation, or.
I think
so. It's hard to not see where it's coming from. If you kind of just rewind a little bit and see where it's coming down from, Fed Ed, and then to our very progressive radical state, it's not really surprising that that's inching its way in.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
God help us.
But yeah, I mean, we are getting hit on all sides, and I think with a lot of these referendums, they want the money and it's going for all this great stuff, supposedly, but they really never get into what it's for. And I think that's what we're finding with this. And I think more parents need to stand up and ask questions and take control of the process. We don't challenge it enough, and I think we back down when they say that we're not about the kids, and we've been taught to say, oh, it's about the kids, it's all good. We were talking a little bit off air about,
strong communities.
Well, strong communities, we can touch on that, and also just how free they are in their ability to push.
Right.
And advertise and market for these referendums as well. Right. So you had just gone through a homecoming. You want to talk about that a little bit? Right. Well,
that is pretty a neat community event that I think everybody enjoys. Friday Night Lights, and that is one thing that's where you kind of just. That's the place to go, and let's not have this argument about the referendum. So you walk up to pay, and there's your marquee about the referendum. You pay the gal, and right next to the cash box is a stack of flyers for the referendum. It's like the first thing I told my husband, really? I almost took the board and kind of hit it. It's like, can we just have one night, where
Should've
it's
grabbed
not
all the flyers.
right, where it's not in your face.
Right. No, and I know I've seen that too, and I've made comments, and I think I've made them on the show. But I think that our legislature needs to come up with a law that states at these events, you either have to allow both sides to put out marketing, the people who are pro and con the referendum, or
Wait a minute.
nobody.
That's freedom of speech. We can't
Right,
have that.
or nobody gets to hand out stuff at school events, and it's just
Yeah, what
gotta
if we all went there and handed out anti stuff?
Yeah.
Probably
be escorted off the property.
it'd probably be the leading story on Channel 11 or something.
Well, I mean, I know our local races, they're not to go to the schools and stump for themselves. So I just think it's one place. It's just like teachers when they're renegotiating contracts and stuff. They have stickers that say our contract has value. I don't think that's appropriate in school. I don't think the kids need to see that. That's something that can happen at the bargaining table. It just doesn't need to be during the school learning day.
No.
You just wonder if that really, in actuality, creates a backlash.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm a free thinker, Jay, and I pride myself on that. And the more somebody tries to put something in my face, I can recall Greenpeace chasing me down in Minneapolis one time, and I had to turn around and hold my arm to make sure nothing happened and say, look, pal, go hug a tree. You want to do that? Fine. I'm going out to eat. Okay? I'm meeting somebody, and I'm not interested in your Save the Albino Squirrel campaign. Don't bother me with it. I tried to be nice, but it was like if somebody would have walked up to me and calmly said something or asked, and I would have said, no, thank you, and they would have walked away, I would have never, I couldn't have, I probably would have forgotten it 5 minutes later.
Right.
But when somebody takes bullhorn and won't let you alone and won't let you walk down, the sidewalk, that's when you not only do you forget why you're stopped, you just want to choke somebody. So, I mean, it's kind of like, I wonder if this creates a backlash by not being able to go to any school event or go pick up your kid at school or whatever without strong schools, strong communities being stamped and carved into your forehead as you go. And it's like you turn it off after a while.
Right.
Yeah.
It does. I think it undermines the intelligence of the tax base. And then the commentary of, hey, it's just a coffee, it's a latte a week. Well, that's
3 cents, 3 cents here, 5 cents here, 10 cents there, and at some point it's real money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who owns a median home, by the way? Why do they
Right.
always do it like that?
Right.
Nobody owns a median home. That's a fictitious number made up by the county assessor. You know what I mean? I mean, there's just, it's nonsense. And we all know that schools are only part of what you pay on property taxes.
Right.
Keep that in mind. You've got the county, you've got the city and their levies,
Right.
you've got the soil and water in your watershed, and whoever else wants to add on to it. So that's in and of itself deceptive too.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, deception is the name of the game. I'm interested in question 2.
Yeah.
Because we do shows on borrowing all the time.
Right.
And how there's no high school graduate probably in this state who can explain how a municipal bond works. Okay, and I don't mean to insult people there, but it's probably true. Half the people who have them in their portfolio couldn't explain them to you either. And what's a bond yield? And look, I'm no expert on it, okay? What's a Moody's rating, blah, blah, blah. But I know one thing, Jay. If you're going to float an $113 million bond,
Yeah.
pretend with me.
Okay.
Everybody pretend. I bought a new truck about 3 months ago. Okay, I'm going to say on the air, it was about $9,000. Well, guess what? I didn't have it. Okay, so what did I do?
You borrowed it.
I borrowed it.
Yeah.
Now, when I pay that money back, okay, I put $500 down. So $8,500 was what I borrowed. Is $8,500 what I pay back?
Oh, no.
No. Even me, in good standing, being the great man that I am, I still pay some interest. So if I'm bonding, what is the district saying? The district's saying we want $113 million, and guess what? We don't have it.
Right.
So they're going to borrow.
They write the bonds. People in the public, they purchase those bonds.
General obligation bonds, backed by the full faith and credit in the government to tax you to death.
Yes.
Let's remember that. Then, when those bonds are paid back, when they mature, and however long that happens, 5 years, the further you go out, the more interest you pay.
Right.
The interest is front-loaded, okay, just like a mortgage or anything else. What's the total bill of that? What's that 113? What's that total bill to the taxpayers when all of that is paid? Now, this district doesn't even break down what that money, where that money, oh, well, we want to build a middle school. Well, what's that going to cost? I don't know.
Right.
I can't find it anywhere. We want to upgrade the gymnasium or something, put in a new basketball court. Okay, how much is that? Can't find it. I can't find it.
Yeah. And you didn't find it either, did you?
No.
Helen? No.
So they want $113 million in bonds for something.
With no plan.
With no plan. And here's the other thing. They want to build buildings and renovate buildings with no money.
Yeah.
They don't have a nickel for it. So when we pay this back, and the reason I say this is, and I'm not as clear on this as I am with the city or county, Jace. I don't want to say something false here.
Okay.
But where does that interest on these bonds come from? If over time they pay, say they pay $140 million over the time of these bonds,
Right.
Where's that $27 million? Where does that? I mean, we don't borrow that. Okay, so
Right.
so where does that come out of?
Well, it comes from...
Question one, that's where it comes from. I mean, ultimately, you have to service the debt.
Right.
So servicing the debt, for question two to really succeed, question one
Yeah.
has to succeed also. So ultimately, what is the total price of this? We don't know. We don't have any idea. And by that time, they'll have 3 more referendum requests anyway. You know they will. They're not going to wait 10 years for that. Nobody does that.
No.
They're going to bait and switch like they always do. We went through this in Robbinsdale, where they made a 10-year referendum, a $14 million referendum, and tried to call it something different.
Well, I think they did say we shouldn't have to come back.
Which is your code language
That's right.
for, if you don't move in the next 5 years, So, but that's all. I'm sure that's dependent on. Well, the state's not funding.
Well, we're just taxpayers. We're just the never-ending pool of funds. So of course they'll come back to us.
Right.
Because then there'll be young parents in 5 years, and I think the older parents, kind of wise up a little bit and have more of a critical eye. But I too, I always voted yes. I never questioned it, And so there are young parents in the district that they want the best for their kids.
I always wanted the best for my kids. I don't know if I ever voted yes on it.
Well, and I would also argue that there's no correlation between money spent and a better education.
None at all.
If you look at where the district makes a big deal of the biggest school districts in the state, they spend the fewest per student. I would still question those numbers a little bit, and I did not have time to really go in the weeds because they put out the same graph everywhere, and that tells me that. And it's not sourced, so I don't really know where they got it from.
Right.
But Minneapolis and St. Paul, for example, spend way more per student, and you could argue that their results are much poorer. So where's the correlation between dollars spent and academic achievement?
Right.
And, I understand it can get to a point where it's, okay, you do need more resources for you could come up with reasons why, but ultimately there never has been a correlation between dollars and academic achievement. And let me ask this, Ann, as a parent, what are your feelings about the district's job that they're doing teaching? Do you feel your kids got a good education there, or
I do. I think the elementary level, wonderful. I think my girls in the high school level have had wonderful mentors and wonderful teachers. The radical ones there are few, but very radical. But yeah, no, I like the administration at ours. I guess you could call us the north part of the district. The principals are great. I think the sports programs are good. So yeah,
So
I wanna be-
you don't hate the district. You're not a child
I-
hater.
No, I want to. I actually, quite the contrary. I mean, when you look at some of this curriculum, can you imagine some of these teachers? How do they feel about that?
I'm sure they're.
You know?
Well, and again, as individuals, remember they're
Yeah.
spoken to as a collective.
Right.
Somebody else does their bargaining for them, so
Right.
they've lost their individuality.
Right.
Yeah.
If we can just have a little more local control, then I think we can support our schools a lot better. I really do.
Interestingly, that was like my next question to you. I mean, in a perfect world, I mean, just as a parent and a taxpayer, I mean,
Yeah.
there's things I'd like to see. What would you like to see changed? I mean, if you could wave a magic wand and say, look, I want these 3 things gone and these 3 things in, or whatever. I mean, you know,
Well, school choice.
Sure.
Yeah. That would pretty much take care of it all.
And by that, we don't mean public school A and public school B.
Right.
Let's remember that. You
Right.
want vanilla here, or do you
Right.
want,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
School. Hey, that's a great answer. School choice. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the funding issues won't be an issue because,
the dollars will follow
Yeah.
the child.
I mean, it's no secret that homeschooling is on the rise. And if the districts and the state do not want to respect the taxpayers, then that's going to keep happening. And then there isn't going to be an argument about it because they're not going to have those bodies in the school to equate.
And
dollars.
there's a great example of dollars not mattering in education.
Right.
Why can a homeschooled kid shouldn't succeed at all if everything the schools say is
Yeah.
the truth? We got to educate the whole child.
Right.
You know, well, that student should fail every time.
Yep.
We have to have a licensed professional teaching them. Well, then nobody homeschooled should ever learn anything. But I think they're afraid of it. I mean, I think the real truth is they're afraid that more. And here's the thing about homeschooling: the biggest problem with it is that it's really, truly, and honestly not an option for everybody right now. You talk about unequal equity.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the poorer folks or single parents or whatever do not have the same choices as everybody else, in and of itself, is unequal. Well, they can't homeschool. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that in and of itself is not fair. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the school choice and stuff. And I'd like to say something, too, about this. Can we ever go back to why is the state the main funder of these schools? Because to me, they always have the boogeyman to blame in the background.
Right.
State's not doing this. State's not doing that. And there's some truth to it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There is some truth to their choices being limited. The federal government you have to comply with this, put in, Title I and all that. So there is, it's not completely false, but that's their narrative every time. So, it kind of just snowballs and grows and grows and grows. So,
Well, I thought the DFL was all about education.
well, you mean they're not? That's news to
So
me.
yeah, so if they want to go back to the state, then they have walls they can
They can make the
Tactic.
change if they like.
in
Yeah.
the DFL-led house too.
Well,
I don't see much changing at that level either. So
I don't. And I'm gonna say this, and people are not going to be happy with me, but that's okay because they usually aren't anyway. If you want to talk about the DFL being the party of the unions and all that, the Republican Party has abandoned vouchers and school choice. They will talk about it at a Tea Party meeting. If they say they're going to do it, they're lying through their teeth. They haven't put a bill for school choice in the legislature in 20 years. It is a complete and total lie. They have given up on it. They've sold it down the river. When they were in charge, they didn't put anything forward. When we had the governor, he put nothing forward. It's BS that they're pushing for school choice. They're just DFL light when it comes to this issue. So people really are on their own if they want change. And I know there's people out there aren't going to like me saying that, but I think we got to tell the truth here that neither party is an agent of change when it comes to this issue. President Bush wasn't an agent of change. There isn't that. Who is that ride? Who's John Wayne riding the horse trying to drum things up? And it's all up to us to basically do it ourselves. And people on Ann's page and all that who are trying to sound the alarm bells, but there's no conductor.
Yeah.
Right.
No. And how many kids fall through the cracks? How many kids don't reach their full potential and don't have that opportunity to do it? So, there's education's got more. You know what? One time I fantasized about owning my own island, or something, or owning my own country.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it just because of education. I wouldn't do it. Even if I were dictator, I don't think I would be happy with it. Still nothing would be right. You know what I mean? Nothing would be right still.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, that's the issue. You look at education and you think about America historically, and it's the community school, with the white church with a steeple on it, and a small town, everybody knows each other, and whatever.
Yeah, how did education start? With schoolhouses and churches and people valuing that and getting together. Nobody had a license to go do anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's why, they're able to pull on the heartstrings so much. I know, like, their big motto for this is strong schools, strong communities.
By the way, go to cities' websites where they have information about voting for this. They will have the same, that theme is on the cities' websites as well.
Somebody said that's kind of a double entree.
Yeah.
On to do or whatever. So, yeah.
And cities occasionally pass resolutions supporting these things as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happened here, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I think they're stumping. Somebody said that there's a billboard a city is promoting.
Well, I'm sure the staff is behind it. I don't know if all of your city council people probably aren't behind it, but
that is true.
Yes.
That they are not. I know that for sure.
So let's play this out. I mean, because here's the other thing. If there's a yes vote, there's not a do-over.
Right.
If there's a no vote, there can be a do-over.
Right. They can come back in 2 years.
1 year. I believe depends on Robbinsdale was 1 year.
Yeah,
it depends on how much they ask for, or there's some state factors in a referendum. But let's play this out. If it passes, what happens, Ann? If it doesn't pass, what do you think happens? Well, if it passes, we know what happens. We get
more equity.
Yeah, we get
That's what they promised.
The mental health.
That's what he said. He said, if it passes, you have equity. Okay. And if it doesn't, they'll, I'm sure, come back.
They'll repackage it as something
Yes.
else and
Yes.
resell it. With consultants that the taxpayers paid for, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
District spent over $3 million in consultants last year. So,
oh my goodness.
Yes.
$3 million. Well, that's what they're trying to pay for then.
Yeah, so it's that.
Gotta pay the
How much,
consulting
I wonder,
fees.
for this campaign?
Oh, I'm
that
sure
can be
quite a
broken
bit.
down a lot
Special
of ways.
You have consultants. You have marketing companies. You have
No, special election itself is a
printing
cost.
costs, and
Well, the video is great, that they put out.
that wasn't free.
No.
That
It's
wasn't
very well
somebody in
done.
the high school AV lab that made that.
Right.
Yeah, you paid for it.
That wasn't like a senior project.
No,
No.
it wasn't. For my senior project, I think I filmed rocks.
Yeah.
I think that was what I did. So, you know what the video cameras were like back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
It's like lugging a dumbbell. So, I mean, again, the dam's going to break if this doesn't pass. And if it does, you're shut out for 10 years on having any say the amount of money that you're willing to put forth to education, generally speaking. I mean, here's the thing. To me, this is such a lose-lose, no matter what happens.
Right.
It's just kind of like, at some point, one of a couple things has to happen. Either A, I'm in favor of everybody doing referendums.
Yes.
I don't think cities should be able to jack my taxes 10%. Counties shouldn't be able to do this. Citizens ought to set a maximum of what they are willing to spend on something. Mm-hmm. Okay? Not be told about it.
Right.
So, but if anything, one of the things that the School Boards Association has been pushing for a long, long time is to do away with referendums.
Right.
And I think we're at a point where that is close to being proposed. I think they're figuring out how to do it, how to sell it, how to word it, how to make it sound like your voice isn't being taken away, even though it is.
Right.
Because you can't, if you tell somebody you're going to take away their ability to vote on something, they're going to react not good.
Right.
But if you make it sound so wonderful, like little doves are going to fly out, and then over time you can get people to sort of change their
Costs
mind.
won't go up. I mean, we generally know how much it takes to run a school, but this gives us more fluidity in being able to make sure that we raise test scores and meet our goals.
Well, but can you
Excellent.
Yeah. But can you imagine what would happen if this district did not have to go to the taxpayers, could levy whatever they want, implement whatever they want? None of this would be known. None of this would go out there. None of this would even be, you'd find out about things 5 years after they happen.
Right. They could keep everything silent about what their plans are with, mental and emotional education, and it's.
How do you hold people accountable when your right to set that maximum is taken? But I think we're not far from it. I think we're not far from referendums being gotten rid of. Period.
Well, let's hope not.
Well, you better get to work then, because I don't think we're far away from it.
Yeah.
And there's been grumblings about it, and I think that the more of these, I hate to say it, but the more of these that get voted down, the more they're going to say, look, we just can't trust the people. We just can't trust voters out there. We got to do what's we think is best for them. So.
Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about, or something we missed, or want to make sure you get everything
One
out
thing
there?
I found to be interesting was non-property owners may vote. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to own property to vote.
No. Granted, they're not paying the taxes directly.
They're paying
They
it
pay them
indirectly.
indirectly, but they don't pay them directly to be able to fund that.
And how about all the business owners that pay property taxes there and live somewhere else?
Right.
Where's their say?
Right.
I mean, we've talked about business owners being a catch-22. You live here, your business is there, you're being taxed there, but you have no say
Right.
in that.
Right.
Well, why don't we let the guy over at Big Old Tire? Why can't he vote? I mean, if he or she is paying taxes there,
That's a great point.
yeah. So I mean, how many people have a business and in one area and live in another? It's very common. When I ran for mayor, I tried to get business support. None of them lived in Crystal.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, so it was kind of, but and they're stuck. Commercial taxes are taxed much, much differently than residential.
Yeah.
So it's a much different way of being. I don't even understand it all, because property taxes are needlessly complex in this state. Like everything else, funding to go to the bathroom is complex in the state of Minnesota. It's like we had a bunch of people who got fired from the IRS were hired by the state to come up with formulas for this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, is that taxation without representation?
I would say it is, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I came up with a new campaign then.
Right.
Well, if people are interested in what's going on out there in ISD 728, maybe you live in the Zimmerman, Rogers, Elk River area, or maybe you just want to know so that you hear tell of a referendum coming your way soon. Ann has a page, Concerned Parents and Taxpayers of ISD 728, on Facebook. So make sure you go like that.
There's
share
good
the articles.
stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very informative stuff. A lot of good discussions have taken place that I've read through. I think it's far better than attending a district informational meeting because it's real conversation. I mean, it's people, just voicing something and having other concerned people. Nobody trying to sell them anything. Being able to talk to one another, and maybe you get to meet people and stuff that you didn't get to at some other time. And so, and let me just ask you real quick about this page. I mean, what led to doing the page, and how has it been? Is it a lot of back and forth, or is it everybody pretty respectful?
Oh, very respectful, and that was why it was born out of the other parent forum was full of censure and bullying, and I actually want opposing views on my page because I can learn from it. I want to know how people feel, so I want people to feel welcome without being beaten up over it. So I think right now some people are still not talking, but it does lean conservative, and that's full disclosure. So if you come there and you're not, but you feel like you want to say something, and please do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for doing that and pulling all that information together and starting the conversations, because I think that's how we get from point A to point B, and we get past it's for the kids.
Right.
And get down to real issues.
Right.
Is it really for the kids?
Yeah.
Of course it is, Jay. Come on.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
What? You ever gonna learn?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No. Well, anyways, thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you being here, and we'd love to see what happens after November and
Great.
keep us in the loop for
Yeah,
sure.
let's hear the fallout.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Right.
Right. I mean, and you know what? Good or bad, I don't mean that in free debate's always welcome on this program. I don't mean yes or no. You're not a bad person if you vote yes. You're not a bad person if you vote no. Let's just make that clear. Our job here is to give you information. If you live in that area, you can go check out their budget where I quoted stats from. I quoted it right from their website. So if they're wrong, okay, if I get called names or something, I'm going to tell them I got it directly from page 1 of your budget. Because, we've had this issue before where you and I are liars. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I've got documents on your website that I quoted.
Uh-huh.
So, it's just mind-boggling what somebody can come up with. You and I are propagandists. That's always fact number one in some people's minds. So,
Fearmonger.
yeah,
Yes.
that too.
Conspiracy theorists.
Hey, if anybody mongers fear in a referendum, it's not the people who question it.
No.
Let's just be blunt about that.
No, or they would speak up a lot more. So, again, thank you. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, good debate.
This episode almost done, in the can, on the way to our wing in the Not Built Yet Podcast Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. So maybe in your area you are having a referendum or having a referendum come up, and you want to know how you can stand up from an activist side like Ann.
And if you aren't, you will.
Yeah. Inform your community, take charge, lead a group, whatever. Or maybe you want to run for a school board position where maybe you can have some say that way from a governing level. Get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. We would be happy to help you figure out how to work through the issues that you're facing as you see those things boiling up to the surface. Thank thank you guys for joining us. We're happy that you're here. We hope you share this with people you know, because that's how they learn, and it's how we learn what's going on all over the state. So we love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn.